So today we're going to be predicting every single main event for every single pay-per-view for the UFC in 2025. Shout out to Warhorse MMA. He gave me this idea. Let's go through what we already know. Like I said, I'm only doing pay-per-view events, not fight nights. So we know we've got UFC 311, Arman Tsarukyan versus Islam Makhachev 2.
Brother.
Then we have got the rematch between DDP versus Sean Strickland 2. A rematch that nobody really cares about, if we're being honest.
Bruh.
But let's get into what I think is going to main event UFC 313. Now, I believe that this is going to be in Las Vegas, this card. So let's start it off. We've got Ilia Topuria, and we've got Topuria rematching Alexander Volkanovski.
Bruh.
Now, Ilia Topuria has stated that he does want to move up. I don't think he's going to move up yet. But I do believe this is a good main event for UFC 313. It's too early in the year to go to Spain for Ilia Topuria. And Volkanovski, I know he's on a 2-fight losing streak, and I know there are the likes of Diego Lopez and stuff like that in this division, but this guy is the greatest UFC featherweight of all time. He does deserve his immediate rematch, let's be honest. He made way for Max Holloway to have his fight. I think it is Volkanovski's time. Now, do I think Volk's going to beat him? We will need to wait and see later on in the video. I am not giving any spoilers, but this is a perfect main event for UFC 313, I believe. In Vegas, two big names. Topuria is a big star. Have him out there in the T-Mobile Arena. Could be the first of many fights for Ilia Topuria this year.
Bruh.
Let's move on to UFC 314. I believe this one is going to be set to take place in Miami. Starting it off, we have got Alex Pereira. Now, who is Pereira going to be facing? It's an obvious one. There is no other option outside of Magomed Ankalaev.
Bruh.
Now, I know it does come across that Pereira is ducking him, but I think he will fight him. I think this is a perfect main event for UFC 314 down in Miami. Look, there is a rumour that the UFC are going to be going to Brazil, but I just feel like Alex Pereira is too big of a name for the UFC to take him to Brazil and not have him in the States. I think Pereira will fight in the States and he will not be in the Brazil card, although I'd love to see Pereira fight Ankalaev in Brazil. I think that'd be pretty cool to see what hero's welcome Alex Pereira would get over in Brazil. And let's not forget it, Brazil is a big audience for the UFC. They love mixed martial arts over there, but like I said, Pereira is just a really big name for the UFC, and I think they want to keep him for stateside. I do believe this is a perfect main event. Pereira, Ankalaev, UFC 314. Maybe Ramadan's on there. Ramadan, I don't really know how you pronounce it, but either way, I think Ankalaev, if he doesn't take this opportunity now, he'll never get it. But I think this is a perfect main event. Co-main event, you can have Sean O'Malley versus Petr Yan, 5 rounds. I think that is excellent as a co-main event, but this is the main event. We have got Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. Let's move on to UFC 315. I've stolen this one from Warhorse, by the way. This fight idea, which is Belal Muhammad to face Shavkat Rakhmonov. And you know what? I think they should have this event in Chicago. I don't know if they've announced that yet, but I feel like Belal Muhammad is from there. Shavkat Rakhmonov, have him in the States. He's got a cult-like following. I don't know where else you can have this. They're obviously going to fight in America. Maybe Belal could fight out in the Middle East. But those cards are way later down the line. I think you have Belal Muhammad get back in there with Shavkat as soon as possible. And you've got this card in May. I think that's enough time. Give Shavkat enough time to heal up after the Ian Gary matchup, and you give Belal Muhammad enough time to get back into training camp. Belal Muhammad off his injury. Belal Muhammad, Shavkat Rakhmonov, UFC 315 in Chicago.
But what the hell, boy?
And I think Belal Muhammad's going to beat him. I've said this when the fight was announced for UFC 310. I think Belal Muhammad is a really horrible matchup for Shavkat Rakhmonov, and seeing his fight against Ian Gary just really confirmed that. So UFC 315, Belal Muhammad versus Shavkat Rakhmonov as the main event of that. Let's move on to UFC 316. This is the one in Brazil. We have got arguably... Nah, not arguably yet. He's getting close to being the greatest flyweight of all time. We've got Pantoja.
I need the max win.
And this is the perfect opponent for him next in the flyweight division. Although, if anybody does deserve a chance to move up, it is him. But the UFC won't even put him in top 6 pound for pound. So this guy's not moving up for double champ status anytime soon. In fact, the UFC have Leon Edwards above him pound for pound. So, yeah. We've got Kai France. I think this fight makes sense. Obviously, Kai France isn't on this crazy win streak. The guy is on a 1-fight win streak.
Bruh.
But he did knock out Steve Usyk, who a lot of people, for some bizarre reason, think beat Pantoja, which is just bizarre to me. But I feel like this is the fight to make next. Kai France coming off a big KO. Pantoja essentially has nobody else to face. He's beaten everybody in the division. He has also already beaten Kai France, but it was on the Ultimate Fighter. So I think you just make this matchup now. It seems like Kai France has spoke about it. Obviously, Manel Cap is fighting Brandon Royval next. Just do this fight. I think this is a good one for Brazil. Pantoja is slowly becoming a bigger and bigger star. Obviously, 301. I don't think the card was... It wasn't a really big card in terms of name value, but the card did deliver with the fights on it. Pantoja Steve Usyk was a great main event. Hopefully they can stack it a bit more with names on the card. But yeah, I think that's the perfect fight to headline if they are going to go back to Brazil, which I'd love to see them go back to Brazil. Have Pantoja, a dominant Brazilian champion, headline that card. Moving on to UFC 317. This is the International Fight Week card. This one right here is going to be an absolute banger. We have got Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. Now, talking about International Fight Week, which is probably going to be the biggest card of the year, especially if it plans out the way I'm thinking. I don't give a fuck what the undercard is to this. I do not care. Because if you've got Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall, that is selling. This fight right here, I believe, will be one of the biggest fights in UFC history. It's easily the biggest fight to make in MMA right now. Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall unifying the heavyweight division. Make it happen. I think it will happen. If this fight doesn't happen, I do believe the only people to blame are the UFC. Because, yes, Jon Jones is asking for FU money in his words, but the UFC have FU money to pay him. So fork out this money once to pay Jon Jones so we can get this fight and get some order restored in the heavyweight division. Give us a big... You know what? If you have to pay Jon Jones so much money, I would literally take Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall main event and the rest of the card all women's fights. That's how badly I want this. I want to see Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. Make it happen. I'm not going to spoil who I think wins this, but all I'm going to say is
I need the max win.
But tell me that's not money though for International Fight Week. Like that is perfect. That is the perfect fight to have for International Fight Week. Tom Aspinall, Jon Jones. Moving on, we've got DDP. I am predicting him to beat Sean Strickland. I think he's going to knock out Sean Strickland in the rematch.
Bruh.
But it doesn't get any easier for DDP. Now, if Sean Strickland wins, this is the same outcome of who they're going to be facing. And it is not Islam. It is Khamzat Chimaev.
Brother.
We've got him finally getting his title fight. I want this fight to be in America. I think Dana White can pull some strings with his boy Donald Trump and get Khamzat Chimaev back into the States and get this fight made. Let's have big headlines this year. Big cards, big fights. Let's feed generations here. Let's give us MMA YouTubers, MMA content creators something to talk about. Khamzat Chimaev, DDP, banger of a fight. Get Khamzat back into the US. Have this in Vegas. Have this wherever. I don't care. This fight sells itself. It's a big one. It's a banger. The press conference will be great. Can the ultimate gaslighter DDP make Khamzat Chimaev cry like he done to Sean Strickland and Israel Adesanya? Yes.
Bruh.
But this is the main event to make. I think this should have been the UFC 312 main event because we've got the main event, which is DDP, Sean Strickland 2, that nobody cares about. So I think this right here should have been 312, but we've got DDP versus Strickland 2.
Who
So let's just have this main event UFC 318 in America. You know what though? If you could have this fight in Africa, would be unbelievable for DDP. I would love them to have an event in Africa, and if DDP loses the belt, which I think he will to Khamzat, it ruins that. So maybe take this card to Africa. Because I can wait on the Khamzat Chimaev American return. I don't know if I can wait much longer on not seeing UFC Africa. They missed the boat with the Adesanya one. Let's not miss the boat with DDP. Let's have him versus Khamzat. Fuck it. Let's take this fight to Africa. Let's just do it. Why not? Next up, right, this might come across as a bit of a filler pay-per-view. But look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't want to see Juliana Pena, Kayla Harrison main event a card. I just don't want to see it. So I'd rather this main event a card. We have got Max Blessed Holloway, the BMF champion, defending his title against Charles Oliveira. Tell me that isn't money. That there is a banger matchup. A rematch, the BMF title on the line. It's a title fight, main eventing. Oliveira doesn't deserve to fight Islam next, in my opinion. Not that he doesn't deserve it, that might be the wrong word, but there's nothing I've seen in the Charles Oliveira Arman Sarukian matchup, or the Charles Oliveira Michael Chandler matchup, that makes me think he's going to beat Islam Makhachev.
Brother.
There's nothing I've seen there that makes me think that. I'd much rather this one. I think this would be a really fun one. BMF title on the line. Make it happen. We are going to have to get a bit of a filler pay-per-view, which is crazy to say this is filler, because I've got the end of the year cooks. I think I've cooked at a medium heat so far, but the later on we get, the more I start to ramp it up. Max Holloway, Oliveira, make that a main event. Then we move on to UFC Spain. Gracias. I'm bilingual. Right. We've got Ilia Topuria defending his title against Diego Lopez. That's a banger. It makes sense for UFC Spain also, because you've got two Spanish-speaking fighters in Diego Lopez and Ilia Topuria. So that will help generate a lot of Spanish people. I think Spain probably have a decent fan base anyway for MMA if the UFC are considering going there, because the UFC have obviously done their research on there before they'd even consider putting out the thought they might go there. But having Diego Lopez there with Ilia Topuria, two Spanish-speaking fighters, which they could go on like more Spain's morning TV show or whatever they have over there, banger. This is a fight I want to see as well, but Volkanovski does deserve his fight first with Ilia Topuria. I think this is a banger. I think Diego Lopez can beat Ilia Topuria.
But what the hell, boy?
I don't think he will. I think to beat Topuria, I don't think you can just poke at him and win a decision. I think inevitably he is going to catch you. I think you're going to have to take it to him, and I think you're going to have to be a power puncher, and that is what Diego Lopez is, especially in the opening rounds. However, I think Ilia Topuria is just too skilled for him, although Diego Lopez does also have really good grappling. It's just a fun one, especially the first two rounds, but I think Diego Lopez will slow down like we have seen in other matchups, and I think inevitably, like every other matchup we've seen with Ilia Topuria, he will knock out and get the win over Diego Lopez, capping off UFC Spain, Ilia Topuria as the winner.
I need the Max
and
win.
the place just erupts. Right, we're coming up to October, okay? We have got
Brother.
Islam Makhachev. He always fights out in Abu Dhabi. I don't think this will be any different this time round. But the fight that I think is going to be for him,
Bruh.
Bilal Muhammad. I do believe that Islam Makhachev will go up and challenge Bilal Muhammad for double champ status. I understand that these guys do have trained together. There is a bit of loyalty there. But, as Khabib Nurmagomedov said,
Who cares? Who cares, man?
I think he's going to go up and challenge him. I don't know what's next for him in the lightweight division. Maybe Max Holloway coming off the Oliveira win. I don't know. But I do just think Islam Makhachev is going to go up. Bilal Muhammad is going to be the champion. There's not going to be bad blood or anything. I think it's just Islam chasing greatness. And I do think Islam Makhachev will become double champ by the end of the year, beating Bilal Muhammad. That's a banger. That is a big, big fight for October. Over there, you've got the main event headlining by two Muslim fighters in Islam and Bilal Muhammad. I think that's money. Let's move on to MSG.
Bruh.
We have got Tom Aspinall defending his title against none other.
But what the hell, boy?
We've got Alex Pereira moving up to challenge Tom Aspinall for the heavyweight title.
Dramas.
MSG, this is a banger. I think Alex Pereira will fight and beat Magomed Ankalaev, and then I think he will move straight up to the heavyweight division.
Dramas.
I don't know who else is there in the heavy or light heavyweight division. If Jamal Hill brutally KOs Yuri Prohaska in like the first round, this is a possibility that he fights Jamal instead of moving up. Just don't think it's going to happen. I think MSG is going to be headlined by Tom Aspinall defending his heavyweight title against Alex Pereira moving up. I think that's a banger. Great way to nearly cap off the year. Great way. Tom Aspinall smokes him, but I think this is a great fight, and it also lets Pereira keep his title. So if he does lose at heavyweight, which he will to Tom Aspinall, he can then move back down and start clearing out the heavyweight division or light heavyweight division again. But at least the guy has dared to be great, going up to challenge for his third title, which would be crazy to think that there's a chance that a guy with what at that point he would have 13, 14, 15 fights in MMA and could become the first UFC 3 division world champion. Not going to happen though, but UFC MSG November, Tom Aspinall defending the title against Alex Pereira, banger. Moving on to cap off the year, we've got this guy right here. Hopefully Merab gets the job done here, but I don't think he will. I do believe Umar Nurmagomedov will beat Merab at UFC 311. I've said it time and time again. I think he is going to beat him by rear naked choke in the second round.
But what the hell, boy?
And he's not an active fighter, but the thing is, he is fighting at the start of the year, so there's no fucking excuse for him not to have 2 fights. I think they do Umar Nurmagomedov versus Sean O'Malley to cap off the year. The UFC wanted this. This is what they wanted after UFC 306 was O'Malley versus Umar Nurmagomedov. The UFC wanted this fight. They think for some reason, well, O'Malley does especially, that this is like the second coming of Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Conor McGregor, when it's literally nowhere near that level at all. Like, it is nowhere near that level. Sean O'Malley is nowhere near that star. Umar Nurmagomedov is also nowhere near the star of Khabib Nurmagomedov. Plus, there is no bad blood between them. So, yeah, this is not at that level. I would love to see Sean O'Malley get the win here, because I do think, even though he is personality-wise boring as hell, I think he is. I think fight style-wise, he's one of the most entertaining fighters on the UFC's roster today. I do want him to win if he does fight Umar. I want him to win if he fights Merab, just because I think his fight style is really, really entertaining to watch. I think he's easily one of the best strikers in the UFC today. I'd love for him to get the win over Umar Nurmagomedov, but unfortunately his grappling isn't up to par, and I think Umar Nurmagomedov will beat him. I think Umar might go on a bit of a dominant run here, which is just absolutely devastating.
But what the hell, boy?
Why are these people in the sport? Why is he fighting for the belt as well? It's literally because of his fucking second name. Fuck Umar Nurmagomedov. But yeah, that's how I think the UFC is going to plan out. Let me know your opinions in the comments below. What do you think of these fights? What do you think of the way I've booked them? I think I've cooked here at a really high heat. I think I've cooked a lovely 5-course dinner here. I think this is excellent, especially near the end of the year. You've got that October Abu Dhabi card, the MSG card, 2 back-to-back double champ fights. Actually, I never thought of it like that. UFC Spain, UFC Africa was thrown in there last second. Let me know your opinions in the comments below.